6 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get going with our Monday, May 15th regular city council meeting. We'll begin with the invocation, followed by the salute to the flag delivered by Mr. Jansen. Please rise.
Let us pray. Good and gracious Heavenly Father, we just ask you on this National Police Memorial Day that you look over our first responders, so you out and protect our peace and be with those families and surviving families of law enforcement that paid the ultimate price. And Lord, we also want to recognize that it's National Military Appreciation Month. And Lord, just be with our military as they protect our freedoms. Lord, we just want to thank you most all for your Son Jesus and the propitiation that he paid on the cross. And it's in his name that we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Golding. Here. Councilmember Horn.
Here.
Councilmember Jansen.
Here.
Councilmember Meza.
Here.
Councilmember Nichols. Councilmember Sutton.
Here.
Mayor Hoffman.
Here, moving on to approval of minutes, item A.
I move that we approve the minutes from the City Council workshop held on May 1st, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular City Council meeting held on May 1st, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C.
I move that we approve the minutes from the council briefing held on May 8th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Mr. Horn, I believe you wanted to make a motion on this one?
Yeah, definitely. I would move that we approve the agenda, subject to the removal of ordinance 2023-8196 from the agenda, please.
We have a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of the ordinance A on our agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Golden?
Can you explain why you would like to remove the ordinance from the agenda?
I have not had enough time to research this, and I don't feel comfortable with the information I have, I don't feel comfortable voting on that tonight.
Mr. Jansen?
Yeah, I would like to also add that I feel like there's more discussion that should be had with our planning director and moving forward with the land development code and how this is going to look as it ties into the conflict that we currently have. So I would like to see it tabled for the nearest reasonable briefing.
And just to clarify, this is not a motion to table. This is a motion to approve the agenda without ordinance A, just so we're clear on the point of order there. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Golding.
No.
Councilmember Horn.
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen.
Yes.
Councilmember Meza.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton.
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. We do have 2 speaker cards on that item. The Phillipses are back there somewhere. If you would like to address the council this evening, I'll call on you if you would like to address us during courtesy of the floor, just so you didn't make the walk up here for nothing.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and feel free to demur to the next time if you would like to, but I'll give you that opportunity when we get there. Moving on to council announcements. Ms. Golding.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I wanted to mention that last week, a few of us attended the police memorial ceremony that was held at our Jacks Beach Police Department, honoring the 10 fallen officers from Florida in 2022. I want to thank our police department for organizing the ceremony. It was, it's a ceremony that you really don't want to have to attend. But also I want to thank our police department for all that they do in keeping our community safe. It's definitely a tough job, and with it being Police Memorial Week, I guess, is it week? Day? Okay. I think it's appropriate that we that we recognize all the great work that our police department is doing. Also want to announce that our Fletcher Middle boys and girls swim teams are the 2023 city champions. Both of the teams won first place at Saturday's citywide meet, and they were competing against 12 teams from middle schools all throughout the city. So that's an amazing accomplishment. Also want to announce that we have some comp plan and LDC update workshops coming up that are very important. I encourage the citizens and businesses in our community to plan to participate. The first one we have coming up is this Thursday, May 18th, and it's our citizens workshop, so it's targeted for citizen input, and that will be at 6 o'clock here in council chambers. Then we have our business owners workshop, which will be Wednesday, May 24th, also at 6 o'clock. Our city boards workshop will be Wednesday, May 31st. And then our city council workshop will be Wednesday, June 7th. All of them 6 o'clock here in council chambers. But this is really important. Our comp plan and our land development code guide how our city is developed and how we move forward in development. So it's important that our community be very involved in this process. So I encourage you to come out and participate. Again, 6 o'clock. And the Citizens Workshop is May 18th, this Thursday. And then I also want to let everyone know that there is going to be a Memorial Day ceremony at the Beaches Veterans Memorial Park in Atlantic Beach at 9 a.m. This is always a really, really good ceremony. I encourage anyone to attend. It's like I said, a really good ceremony. And then just to update everybody, the legislative session ended on May 5th. I don't know about you guys, but I was celebrating that the vacation rental bill died in the Senate, thank goodness, but it will be back. And it was a bad bill, and unfortunately, it will probably be back. So we need to be prepared to proactively try to address the legislation next year. And then, for those of you who may not know, tomorrow is Election Day, and so if you haven't voted yet, please vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golding. Any other announcements from council? Just wanted to also recognize that today is Peace Officer Memorial Day. We had a lovely ceremony last week hosted by our police department, and I was struck by something State Attorney Melissa Nelson said, something along the lines of being a police officer is a job that everyone thinks they know how to do, but when our police officers are running towards the danger and we're running away from the danger, it's not something that we are all willing to do. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our chief, command staff, and all of those sworn and civilian folks that help us out with our police department, our volunteers, everyone who helps keep our community safe every day. Thank you so much. Seeing no other announcements, we will move on to courtesy of the Florida visitors. We have a couple of speaker cards. We'll start with, and just so you know, you have 3 minutes. Start with your name and address, and then I'll start the clock, and you can address the council. Mr. Mark Braddock.
Mark Braddock, 464 14th Avenue South, Jacks Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Mark Braddock. I stand before you tonight not only as a local business owner, but also a proud resident of Jacksonville Beach for the last 40 years. This will be my 20-year anniversary for 8103 Clothing and 5 years in business for the 904 Pop-Up. I'm not only here to express my deep appreciation for the current layout of Latham Plaza and Seawalk Pavilion. I'm fearful that this new proposed design will not only hurt our local small businesses, it will severely affect the quality of life in our Jacksonville Beach community. Our city has always embraced a family and friendly environment, and it is essential that we preserve this unique lifestyle and culture that makes Jacksonville Beach such a special place. Such a significant change to the layout of our beloved Latham Plaza and Seawalk Pavilion should not be made without the input from the community. This new proposed design not only threatens to displace small business owners, but also lacks a comprehensive analysis and case studies to support its viability. Most troubling of all, it appears that the community at large has not been adequately involved in the decision-making process for our most popular public green space in Jacksonville Beach. If these proposed changes are implemented, it will result in a 50% reduction in the 904 pop-up footprint. Not only will this reduction have a profound impact on the thousands of small businesses that depend on the revenue generated from the 904 pop-up, the vibrant community that we have built over the last 5 years will suffer due to the limited green space for our event if these proposals are passed. Furthermore, due to the time required for the development of these new proposed plans, the green space will be unavailable to use for any Jax Beach Festival for over a year, causing further hardship to our small businesses and food truck community. The vendors heavily rely on the 10 events per year organized by the 904 pop-up and the numerous other local staple events throughout the year. Over the last 5 years, the 904 pop-up has experienced tremendous growth, from expanding from 60 vendors to over 200 vendors and 15 food trucks. We have become North Florida's largest curated pop-up, attracting new businesses and owners from all over the state. Our event has not only contributed to the popularity of Latham Plaza and Seawalk Pavilion, but it has been instrumental in showcasing Jax Beach as a thriving entrepreneurial hub. This premature design has not been discussed or approved the local residents and community at large. I am asking that the drawing board be revisited and the input from the city of Jacksonville Beach be sought. After all, the 904 pop-up has consistently curated local community-driven events that foster new entrepreneurs and strengthen our community bonds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Braddock. Dylan Beaver.
Hello, Dylan Beaver, 838 Kabbalah Road, Atlantic Beach. I stand before you again for the third time in the past year as a concerned citizen. I do not have a vote here in Jacksonville Beach because I am not a Jacksonville Beach resident. I am just a voice. We're asking you for the third time to stop being politicians and become good people. Listen to your voters, listen to your community, and do what's right for the community. You've used tax dollars to fight petitions led by the community that you could have tweaked versus just shooting it down over a simple wording or a template. You wish you could have done something a year ago when you could have done something a year ago about those petitions and the volunteers on our beaches. Again, being politicians, not good individuals. Good servants of the community. Referendums are awarded to confuse our community. That's why in the past election, there was a referendum passed overwhelmingly to limit our power to petition. You know this. You know how referendums are written. You know how they get misconstrued in the wording and how they can be misleading. Again, please don't be politicians. Be good people. I'm reminded of a quote that I heard of when I was a young kid, and it really stuck with me. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't do the right thing, then nothing happens. But when you do right, guess what? Good things happen. Again, please don't be the politicians. Be the good people, the good servants of this community, and do the good thing. There's a reason you don't meet people from Daytona or Miami in Daytona and in Miami. When you walk around their downtown, booming, bustling downtown areas, you see a lot of tourism, a lot of individuals walking around. As you go out in the community, they're not from Daytona, they're not from Miami anymore. That's because that downtown community has been destroyed. I'm born and raised here. I left for 12 years, came back to see a major change in just those 12 years that I was gone. Now that I am back, I would like to be a voice to at least encourage you to do the right thing and not destroy this community that we have built. If you're not from here, please go knocking door to door. Ask your people, ask your community what it is that they want. I've been knocking door to door. I have been petitioning against some of these items you brought up. I am hearing what they are telling me. It's not good things. It's a concern. It's not something we want to be a part of. Luckily, since I've moved into Atlantic Beach and purchased a home, I've gotten involved with their city council. Within 3 days of me bringing up some issues to their city council, their interim city manager came to my door and set an hour-long meeting to voice what those concerns might be. I asked, has your city manager done this? Does your city manager take upon that on his shoulders to go out and actually talk to the community and what they want? Please, be good people, not politicians.
Thank you, Mr. Beaver. Jeff Miller.
Jeff Miller, 1115 9th Street North, Jacks Beach. Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Please bear with me. I never speak in public, and I'm not a public speaker. And it is hard for me to speak about this because it concerns my granddaughter. I came to say something because of what happened to my son and granddaughter on Sunday evening, May 7th, as they crossed the boardwalk to go for an evening surf. They were harassed and threatened, called racial slurs, even threatened to take their surfboards. My 9-year-old granddaughter. Other surfers experienced the same. On return, as they can't finish their session to come back, and they picked up trash from the beach to put in the can, this group of people saw that same group of people and began to escalate and throw trash at them, throw trash at my 9-year-old granddaughter. And mocking them for picking the trash up. My son is smart and wise. He kept his head down and his mouth shut and got his daughter out of harm's way. They threatened to take her surfboard at one point. Catcalled her. My son's daughter makes good grades in school. She is quiet and polite, and is representing North Florida and Jacks Beach, as well as any 9-year-old could possibly do. She is currently the USA East Coast Surf Champion for under 10 girls. She surfs at that pier all the time. It's her place to train. She's there 2 or 3 times before school in the morning and 4 or 5 times in the evening, and getting professional lessons as well there. What if it was your granddaughter? So far, the city council and police chief have made it clear that the people that come here park, drink out of their cars, don't go to restaurants or bars, gather in gang-like crowds, drinking illegally and obviously, intentionally taking up space that is meant for a thoroughfare, and make people go around giving threatening looks and comments, throwing their trash on the ground, glass as well, and then they leave. They made it clear that this agenda is more important than the safety of my granddaughter. I'm absolutely appalled at the response and the reaction to so far the police and the city government. Government is supposed to represent the community interest. The community's expressed this interest over and over again. But the problem just gets worse and worse. Does a 9-year-old have to get assaulted or attacked before something happens? That's what, just don't be the same. Everybody here, we told them and they did nothing, and now look what's happened. How about we write a different story than that here in Jacks Beach? What if it was your granddaughter?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Casey Braun.
That's a tough one to follow. Casey Braun, 804 13th Avenue North, Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I went to the council briefing last week. The items that were discussed at that meeting are potential turning points for our beach community. The exception to our charter's height limit is just one part of the potential continuation of our failure to create a downtown that enhances our beautiful beach. At 35 feet, that project should be limited in scope and primarily function to eliminate other downtown parking. Any commercial aspect to the project should be held to a minimum, allowing that garage to be the target for traffic heading into the beach or downtown. A police office well located in the garage will keep the area safe. If we go to a P3 with any developers on this, it should be for them to help us to get what we want, not for them to tell us what we need. Something that I was pleased to see at the meeting was the Latham Plaza redesign concept. The lore of our downtown needs to be developed, especially coming from the garage, since that's our traffic target. But it should not happen at the expense of community events and activities. There needs to be an integration of that into the design. If parking is eliminated along the downtown streets, that new space can easily be adapted for tents and vendors. One way or another, there needs to be some solution. One important element of the new design was landscaping with oak trees. This was an exciting element, but it was downplayed by the representative from the developer. He noted that the sea air is making it hard for the trees to survive. This may be true, but there are hundreds of these trees as close to the beach as these would be, so there must be a way to make oaks or some similar type of tree succeed. We're not South Florida, we're the gateway to South Florida, and we need trees. There's no question that it would be worth the effort. The remaining downtown needs to be made more pedestrian and family friendly as well. We need better public transportation from downtown and from the airport. In a Times Union article, a Beaches Hotel noted, area beachcombers come from as far away as Canada and as nearby as Jacksonville's west side. They're mostly families in search of a nice place to spread a beach towel and soak up some rays. This is our identity, and we need to recognize it and develop to enhance it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Ty Miller.
Ty Miller, 522 4th Avenue South, City of Jacksonville Beach. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As a multi-generation beach resident, military veteran, and father to the future of our beach, I need your help. I need your help making our beach a safer place. The overwhelming majority present today feel that the heart of our beach has become a dangerous place to be during certain times and days. I do not believe that some of the council's approach to developing our way out of this problem is the answer. Raising height limits, adding parking garages, and redesigning the park does not solve the real problem. Increasing officer presence, acknowledging this horrible problem that we have right now would be a great start. I promise you that our community would be a lot more open-minded to propose changes if they felt like the city was listening. How can we get behind increased parking and business when we don't have control over what we have now? I want you to look at my 9-year-old daughter and tell her that you're doing everything you can to make this beach a safer place right now. I promise you, after last Sunday's event and what happened with us, she doesn't feel safe. We asked for help from the police. I was told there was nothing they could do. The optics weren't good. I'm asking you for a different answer. The response from this community to our experience has been really overwhelming. People you know, community leaders, great people, right? One thing we all agree on is that the environment's not good. We do not want to cater our tax dollars towards inviting more visitors when we don't have a handle on the current crowds. The safety and atmosphere of our beach is just one of the many issues represented here today. Do you not hear the majority telling you that they're not happy with the current direction? Do you not hear the community telling you that we are not happy with the proposed changes? Do you not hear my children are not safe? Please do better. Please consult with the community. Please listen. I'll leave you with this. I am as pro-police and as it gets. It's a tough job. I ask you to make it competitive pay, to increase the quality and the amount of policing, whether it's help from JSO overtime hours, whether we look to community programs similar to Volusia County and deputizing the guys that are there every single day. They're lifeguards that know this beach better than anybody. There's answers, there's ways. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'm here, you know how to get a hold of me. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. If everyone could silence their cell phones. Mr. Phillips does not wish this, these were the speaker cards that were with regards to the ordinance that we removed from the agenda. Mr. Phillips does not wish to speak, but I believe Mary Phillips does. And while she's coming up, I will say that today we announced 2 workshops with regards to Latham Plaza, if you haven't seen yet. These are workshops. The format has not quite been hashed out yet, but the main priority there will be talking to the downtown business owners as well as the event promoters that utilize Latham Plaza about where we are kind of in the conceptual phase right now before we start to take next steps there. So those are June 10th and 24th. June 15th and 27th. Strike everything I just said. June 15th and 27th. Please always confirm via Facebook or the city's calendar. Mary Phillips.
Thank you. Mary Phillips, 934 10th Street North, Jacksonville Beach, Florida. First, I want to say thank you to Ms. Golding for recognizing my swim team and the girls' swim team. I can only take credit for the boys, but as Mr. Horn well knows, it's, you know, we work together, and so it's a huge, huge accomplishment for both of us to come home with a citywide championship. And I was wrong in the number of teams. There are actually 18 teams. From the middle schools, so more power to our swimmers. I'm speaking with regard to ordinance 2023-8196, and I am in favor of approving that ordinance and applying the standards in section 34211 of the Land Development Code to sections 34348I and 34348J2 of that same code. I urge you to pass it. I would have liked you to pass it tonight with no exceptions and no amendments that would give developers any loophole or advantages similar to what the prior language had allowed. There is no doubt we need to strengthen our ability to limit overdevelopment and close loopholes that have allowed it to get to this point in the first place. I can't help but notice the timing of this ordinance. Giving citizens more tools to fight overdevelopment just weeks after you voted to allow one more PUD to slide through, it just speaks volumes to those of us who are listening. And we are listening. We are listening, we are watching, we are voting. It is my hope that the citizens will come out in force tomorrow to vote no on that height limit referendum that's on the ballot. I just heard, 2 people ask you to please make sure you're hearing. I don't want you to hear us. I want you to listen to us. I think there's a huge difference between hearing. Kids hear me all day long, but they don't listen. I want you to listen. Listen to the citizens. Listen to what they want and start doing those things. I want to thank those council members who have been listening, but I want to invite those of you who are hearing us to start listening to us.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Thank you. We'll move on with our agenda. We've got one business item and then a few more ceremonial things that we'll do before we get to the rest of our agenda. So we'll start with the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the monthly, or the consent agenda. Sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have 2 proclamations that I will get my reading glasses out for, and then we have a very exciting commencement ceremony for our Citizen Information Academy. So we'll start with National Safe Boating Week. I'm going to read it from up here, and then if you guys want to come up afterwards for a quick photo or whatever you would like to do. Maybe not whatever, but okay. So proclamation in honor of National Safe Boating Week. Whereas boating continues to be a popular recreational activity for over 100 million Americans, and people are taking to the water and enjoying time together boating, sailing, paddling, fishing, and whereas safe boating begins with preparation, the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents and that life jackets could prevent nearly 86% of boating fatalities, and whereas through basic boating safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency distress and communications equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe throughout the season. And whereas National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so that they can have a safer, more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. And whereas on average, 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., and 75% of these fatalities are caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their life jackets. Now therefore, I, Christine H. Hoffman, Mayor of the City of Jacksonville Beach, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 20th through 26th, 2023 as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating, and urge all of those who boat to practice safe boating habits and wear a life jacket at all times while boating. Feels anticlimactic if there's not applause at the end there. Thank you. We're a little early on this next one, but this was just how our meetings lined up. This is for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas every day more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence and more than 200 are shot and wounded. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. And whereas in an average year, 2,989 people died by guns in Florida, a crisis that costs the state $40.3 billion each year, of which $875.9 million is paid by taxpayers. Florida has the 30th highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S., and whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas mayors and law enforcement officers, in partnership with local gun violence prevention activists and resources, know their communities best and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see an increase in firearm homicides and non-fatal shootings across the country, increased calls to domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in gun violence. Whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than 2 years of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. And whereas Americans across the nation are encouraged to wear orange, the color of gun violence prevention movement, on Friday, June 2nd, to help raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the hands of people who should not have access to them, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. Now therefore, I, Christine H. Hoffman, Mayor of the City of Jacksonville Beach, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim June 2nd, 2023 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and encourage all citizens to support their community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. I'm not going to go all the way back up there. So we do have alluded to a special occasion today. We're celebrating the commencement from our second annual Citizen Information Academy. So we had a full complement of citizens this time. Last year, if you recall, we did just city staff and elected officials and boards to just kind of work out all the kinks and to get a good solid program going, and I think that we did that, and so I appreciate everybody who participated. I think it was 6 weeks of Thursday night programs, and more? 5, okay, I don't know, just don't count on me for numbers today. Many weeks, and everything from hearing straight from our police department to touring the water treatment plants and Parks and Rec and everything in between. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed having you and putting it together for you, just to learn so much more about your city and the day-to-day job of Jacksonville Beach and how we work. So now you get a frame-worthy certificate and a wonderful bag of goodies, and I think Sherry is gonna, are we taking pictures for this one at all? Do you guys want pictures?
We're going to do a
Oh,
class.
we're gonna do a class photo, okay, thank you.
Okay, Kamal Abu Shama.
Can we get somebody to play pomp and circumstance? Get that data? That was shared. You want to just stay up here, so we'll do the group photo?
Molly Gallagher.
Yay! About time she learns about the
Jennifer Ashley. Marilee Billick. Albert Blair. George Candler.
Did you learn some things?
I did.
Good.
Tony Davenport. Gene Funkhauser. John Goslin, who I know is not here today. Tyler Glenn. Dale Harden. Edie Herwig. Alice Kenyon. Mike Kibler. Greg Kleffner. Melissa Larsul. Matt Betts. Bonnie Mole. Evan Satterwhite. Donna Shirley. Janine Wood. And Claudia Wright. Now, last year they did 2 rows. Some stood up on the back step there.
If you're standing up, you can stand up on the ledge there, and then the rest of the folks can stand in front. Maybe you have to get a little bit closer. And We all ate dinner together for 5 weeks.
Okay. Everybody ready? Got one with everybody's eyes open. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the city clerk's office for really being the spearhead on this program, making it fun, interesting, lots of good food. And for all the participants also for filling out your surveys, we really do look at those. So thank you for taking care to fill those out after each week because it helps us make the next year even better and more impactful. So we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Okay, I'm going to sit down for a little while, and we will move on to City Manager New Business, Item 1. This is going to be our Police Department.
Thank you, Sherry. Gene Paul Smith, Jacksonville Beach Police Department. What do you want my PowerPoint to come up? Okay, Mayor and Council, thank you for entertaining us tonight, and I'll be brief, I'll be thorough but brief. If you have any questions, you can just ask me right away, or we can wait till the end. Just a little bit of history. When I took over as chief in May of 19, by the way, it'll be 4 years. I'm coming up my anniversary. Y'all and CRA board tasked me with redoing and making the camera system more efficient and effective for giving some more coverage. Well, almost 4 years later, we have the results sitting in front of you. If y'all remember back to July 2022, we presented the first version of this, what we had found in all the research we've done. But what I wanted to do before we spent one more dime is I wanted to get an audit of the system, where the current cameras were, what worked, what didn't. Just hold up. No, you can forward it, sure. I'll take it forward. Can you forward one? So we did the initial audit, and what we found was where we had holes in the system, what worked, what didn't work. And Detective Brett Burrell actually was crucial to this effort. He's in the back. Should you have any 500-foot questions, he really knows the locations, the suggested locations, and a lot of technical data on the camera system. Also in the audience tonight is Preston Bullen. He is a Siemens rep. He is not just a rep or a salesperson. He has been a partner with us from the first day. He's entertained numerous requests, questions, versions. He's been patient with us, and he has invested in this city, in this project. Also newly appointed Commander Tom Bingham is now the project manager. He was lucky to get that appointment when he took over. He was thrilled. As you can see the look on his face, you just can't tell. So this is the result. Real quickly in review, the downtown CRA, we're upgrading the camera system by replacing all the current cameras. And we're replacing them with new cameras because the old cameras are 5 years old. We didn't want to put in a bunch of new cameras and have a bunch of old cameras, so we're replacing them all at once. If you can add and subtract, there's a question, there's a difference of 8 cameras here. We're going to repurpose, and we're pulling some cameras down, downing those locations and poles, putting new cameras up, and repurposing some of the 8 cameras that were pulled from downtown. Locations are being discontinued. There'll be a total now of 81 cameras in the downtown area for the downtown CRA. We feel this gives us the most coverage with the reasonable expectation of, we also have a budget to stay within too. We could have got more coverage, we could have got less. This was what we all decided on as a working group. It was a very complicated, in-depth project. What we did was, we went with our downtown Cape supervisors and Detective Burrell went to every current camera location, looked at the angles, and took the input from our downtown Cape officers, and these are the locations we came up with. There'll be 81 total cameras. Now, you have my word that once we get them up, some locations may be optimal, some locations may not be, as in 2017 when we put the initial system in. If we find a location doesn't work, or we need more camera coverage there, we either move cameras around, or you'll get a version 2.5, which would be additional cameras to cover areas where there's holes in the coverage. And this is not a panacea. It will not cover all of downtown, but this is certainly a reasonable expectation to cover a lot more area in our downtown area for camera coverage. Next slide, please. This is the total cost for materials and labor as of today, $624,500. Questions on the first part? There'll be 4 second parts. Okay, moving on, please. Sunshine Park, when we initially put in the camera system in 2017, there were only 3 cameras, and they were pointed right down at the skateboard bowls. There was no coverage and for the rest of the park. Certainly Sunshine Park in the last few years has taken on a life of its own, and we felt it definitely needed more coverage everywhere from the parking lots to the fields to the bathrooms. We feel that additional 13 cameras will give us the coverage we need to adequately cover the area, and entrances, exits, and all of the playground and other crucial areas. So there'll be a total of 16 cameras down there. It includes addition of upgraded new infrastructure and fiber optic cable. Next slide, please. As you notice, the total cost will be $301,200. As you can tell, the labor cost is almost as much as the materials cost, or vice versa. The reason is those costs are so close is because we had to put infrastructure, cable, servers, and many other items down there. They exist in the downtown area and don't necessarily exist in Sunshine Park to support that many cameras. Next slide, please. Do I have any questions on part 2, which is Sunshine Park? We good? I'll roll on. The third piece of this is the command post area. This will be our station, both in our conference room and our squad room, which y'all seen. We work on all major special events from there, and also critical incidents such as hurricanes. Part of the issue with the command post, we want it done professionally this time. In 2017, it was myself, 2 other commanders, and 2 sergeants loading 5 flat screen TVs into 5 SUVs, transporting them here. I put half up in the attic and the other half were down running cables and drilling holes, and we really didn't know what we were doing. So we wanted to put it professionally, mounted professionally, along with warranties and all the other information that goes with it. So that is phase 3. Next slide, please. The total cost, this will give us additional flat screens, which you see in our command post area. And of course, with more cameras, we had to increase the number of screens and computer equipment. Therefore, we could see the more cameras you add, of course, the smaller they get on existing screens. So we had to add screens so we can enlarge all those camera angles, 81 to be exact, and the cost is $58,000. Questions on part 3? Next slide, please. Part 4, it's really part 4.5 is Cradle Creek. There are currently some cameras down there, and of course, you know, with more use of the park, we're including additional and upgraded cameras in Cradle Creek to the cost of $11,500. The poles are already there, a lot of the infrastructure is there already. All we have to do is run 2 new cameras. Next slide. Okay, this is really the key to me. This is where, to me, it was shortchanged after looking back and doing all this research, was 2017. I can tell you honestly, after looking at this is really where a lot of this failed the first time and where we fell short. The service agreement covers everything from monthly cleaning. Anybody who's parked their car outside the beach after a week knows what the windshield looks like. Well, that's what the camera lenses look like. We had to secure our own bucket truck before. We now have that included, everything from routine maintenance, IT support, everything's included in this contract. Where I feel comfortable recommending the purchase of it, because to me, this part 4 is the most important thing. We can't just put it in like a brick building and let it sit for 5 years with no maintenance or no upkeep. And that was part of the problem the first time. With this maintenance contract, I feel we can proceed. It's almost a turnkey push-button system with all these service agreements in place, which are included in the notebook we provided you with. And to me, this is the most important piece, is the care for the infrastructure. As y'all have found in everything y'all have done since you have been up here, it's not just putting the infrastructure in, it's the long-term care and the upgrades that go along with it that really make it or break it. So we don't have to ever go through an audit again. We know what we have, we know what works, we know what doesn't work. And we also have a regular maintenance schedule to replace cameras, software, hardware, cables, poles, all those things that we never had before. Next slide, please. This is what the service agreement includes. I'm not going to go through it, the whole thing. If you have any specific questions about any of the services provided by the service agreement, myself or Mr. Bullen will be glad to answer it. Next slide, please. Cost of the service agreement for 3 years is $591,715. Next slide, please. Now, of course, the complexity of this program, I'm probably exaggerating, but there's like 6 different funds that all this stuff's coming out of, between CRA, South CRA, general fund, police budget, because there's cameras all over the city. So Ms. Gossett was kind enough to break this down for us on the cost for each area of the camera program and what it's going to cost in the maintenance program. Is that correct? So there's kind of the breakdown. It's a lot of numbers, but it is very confusing. When we had to do an audit of the entire camera system in the city that are kind of on different systems, it was very difficult. That's why it took 3.5 years to get our hands around all these different cameras and multiple systems. Next slide, please. So here's a summary total of all costs that I'm coming to you tonight with. That includes the downtown CRA total cost, Sunshine Park total cost, Command Post total cost, and Cradle Creek total cost. There probably will be other phases as we move down the road for different areas of the city that y'all would like, or the groups would like, for camera coverage, including additional parks, the Carver Center, whatever we come up with. That this would be phase 2 of the camera system. From here on out, the next phase will be 3, 4, and so on. As these come before you over the next couple of years, as you agree or request cameras to be added to different areas of the city. Next slide, please. Any questions? That was 4 years of work in 8 minutes.
And we know the Community Redevelopment Agency has had several presentations on this as well, so thank you for that. Let's go ahead and get a motion and we can ask questions.
I move that we approve the purchase of camera systems to be located in the redevelopment districts in Cradle Creek from Siemens Industry, Inc., utilizing Sourcewell Contract 030421.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments from council? Mr. Mesa.
Comments, questions? I'm really happy this is finally getting done. I know even before I got on council, before I even ran for office in 2012, and years after that, talking to some of your officers, we talked about the camera system and how it needed a lot of improvement. I'm glad this is finally being done. On the other parts, you mentioned the Carver Center. You said that was going to be what, phase 2 possibility?
No, that was a possible location as been mentioned. I was using that as an example. Everything after this will be phase 3 and 4 and so on. So it will be up to the group, the city, you all, and us to all come to a consensus on what we want to cover. You know, don't forget, every camera we add is server space. If somebody needs to look after the system. is just another piece, another thing we have to monitor. So while it sounds good, and I'm sure you all know, to just put in cameras, that comes at a cost, hard and soft cost. So whatever we decide in the future, we'll gladly add it, but that's more monitors, more space, more people to look after, more money for the maintenance agreement. It just keeps getting incrementally more expensive. And this is a thing. This is like a living, breathing entity or part of the city. This is not just a piece of infrastructure you put in and forget about for 5 years. There's constant maintenance and upgrades and things that need to be done with the system. So that's my only caution to use a group before we add more cameras. It's not quite that simple, and I think you know that.
I totally understand that. In the future, I know Gonzalez Park will probably be a busy park. That's just something to look at and start thinking about potential, I guess.
That Gonzalez Park hasn't been mentioned, and I would recommend to wait till it gets redone, because we don't want to put things in the ground and have to pull them back up. So.
Mr. Horn?
Quick question. So, in light of the discussion that was actually brought up earlier this evening in regards to issues on the beach, the only infrastructure that we have that extends beyond the bulkhead is the pier. Is there any planning, or is there thought about putting cameras on the pier that would give us some, obviously they've got range issues, they can't see a mile down to 6th Avenue South. Is there any discussion or thought about that now or in the future?
We talked about actually putting them on the pier. We feel the recommended locations for the cameras, the additional, will give us beach coverage. That was a major point with us, and I believe we have one on top of Margaritaville, pointing out pan and tilt into those areas. The concern about the pier was infrastructure, electricity, rust, abuse. I don't think we're ready to put one up there yet, and part of this was, this plan's been in development for almost 2 years, so we didn't even have a pier when this was coming in. So that could always be a 2.5 issue that we decided to add, is, that's why I mentioned the camera upgrade 2.5. There might be some spots that we can fill, and the pier is definitely one of them. It's got the best view. Of those that y'all have noted that saw the department Facebook page this morning, I posted 2 shots from the pier at 8:30 last night, and they were wonderful shots. I think it's a good angle, and I think it's something we might need to look at in the future after looking at those angles.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because I know you've done the research over the last several years. You're not just bringing this after a weekend, Google searching, so that's why I have to ask.
Appreciate it.
But no, I throw that out there. The only thing I was going to mention that just caught my eye there, it said downtown Margaritaville, is that, are they attached to Margaritaville? Are they monitoring Margaritaville?
Yes, yes, they know. We're attaching to Margaritaville. There was an arrangement made. We also have fiber optic running from the top of Margaritaville. That was an arrangement with the city, with us. We rented years ago, and in anticipation of needs such as this, fiber's already run, and we put the cameras up there too, so it's already done. Same thing as Pablo Towers. Technically, it's a private entity, but all the antennas and stuff up there, and that's where a lot of our signals beam to in the camera project. That is also a private building, as you know.
Thank you.
Mr. Jansen?
Chief, I'm going to turn my question more into a comment than anything. So my last 3 years at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, they introduced body-worn cameras, and I was part of the circle of duty that had to make sure that all those cameras were reviewed at the appropriate times when they needed to be, when there was an officer-involved incident. One of the unintended consequences that we discovered, or at least I discovered when we were working, was the demand for media requests, records requests. So it really skyrocketed, and it skyrocketed quickly. And so that being said, just if the demand comes up where the personnel is needed, or it gets a little overwhelming, by all means reach out to us and let us know so that we can get that covered, because it really mountains up pretty quickly.
It does. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Councilmember Mesa,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Skipping ordinance A, we'll go to ordinance B. City, I'm sorry? I'm just kidding. Second one. Next motion, please. Crickets indeed.
Pardon me, sorry. I move that we approve the video management system service agreement with Siemens and authorize the mayor and city manager to execute the same.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Meza,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Now, ordinance B, right? The City Attorney Robinson?
Thank you, Mayor. This is before the council for a second reading. It's an ordinance to repeal Chapter 2 of the City Code. Chapter 2 deals with the rules of order for the City Council. The City Attorney is recommending that you approve this. This section is no longer needed as a result of Council's adoption of the legislative policy manual.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you read the ordinance by title, please?
An ordinance of the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, repealing Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council, Division 2, Rules of Order in its entirety, and providing for severability, codification, and an effective date.
This ordinance is before the council for a public hearing and consideration on its second reading. I will now open the public hearing on ordinance number 2023-8197. We do not have any speaker cards on this item. Would anyone in the audience like to speak for or against this agenda item? Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve ordinance number 2023-8197 on the second reading, repealing Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council, Division 2, Rules of Order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion by council? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Councilmember Meza,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. May I have a motion, Ms. Golden?
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll second.
This meeting is adjourned.